Hi everybody, I'm Bronwyn.
And I'm George, and you won't see a lot of this in these days. In many webinars, people sitting next to each other, and we're not disrespectful of the social distancing rules and laws and things. We're together because we're married. I'm George, and this is Bronwyn Rotenbach. So we live together. We're able to sit in one space and have a chat with you guys. That might feel quite unfamiliar. All of this is actually quite unfamiliar to us. But we're also together because we're the founders of Sunshine Gun. And we're going to be presenting this piece more or less together.
Great. So we're here to talk to you today about the forces that are influencing brand and packaging design and innovation in this interesting time and beyond. So just a little bit of context as to why this topic. We're the global brand custodians for Nando's, and we're also the lead agency for 10 of the key AV InBev brands. We work very closely with their innovation division. We collectively have more than 20 years deep experience in FMCG design and working on brands like Coca-Cola, Schweppes, along with many others. So the challenge as we see it facing brands and clients today are really firstly your speed to market or reaction time. Then next, how you build distinction and thereby connection. And then lastly, I think what's on everybody's minds is how we emerge from all of this strong. So hopefully what we can share with you today is ways to think about your brand, how to innovate quickly, and the role that your packaging can play in this broader universe. We've got quite a high energy presentation with loads of pictures, and it's broken into 6 key topics that we think are important. And at the end of each of those, we've got a section with some highly actionable insights that you may consider taking forward. So just a little bit more about Sunshine Gun by way of introduction. We have a studio in sunny Johannesburg and in not always so sunny London, and more recently in about 35 homes around the world. Our purpose is founded in bringing light to brands. We help brands to be the best possible expression of themselves in both the physical and the digital world. We do hope that we'll bring some interesting thinking to light for you today. Of all the thousands of webinars happening in the world right now, you've chosen to spend this hour with us. It's not something that we take for granted, so thank you very much. Let's dive right in. We're living in a time where we don't know where the next week is going to go, never mind the year or the 5-year plan. So in that spirit, this is Ready, Fire, Aim.
Yeah, that's the name of our talk today. And I don't know if you've heard this expression before or not. We heard it the first time years ago from one of the Nando's founders. He used it and we just loved it and it stayed close to us. And I think in those early days, they applied this methodology more or less. They would just do things and try things, and then when they hit the mark, they'd understand what they did right afterwards. And I think we're slap bang in a time today where this kind of thinking might very well apply. We're all firing off rapidly and like crazy. We're all fighting for our lives and for our brands. And we're slap bang in the middle of a ready, fire, aim time. So just to explain a bit of our approach here, we've approached this press in these 3 stages, past, present, future. We're looking back at history. I guess it's perhaps just human nature that when you're in trouble and you're in desperate times as these are, you need some comfort, or you want to learn from other people in similar situations. So we look back in the first section here at wars, world wars, other pandemics, the Great Depression and so on, to learn how brands behaved there, how people behaved, what happened there in marketing and commerce. We take that and apply it to what's going on now, compare it to what we're experiencing here now, and then put those together to hopefully have an idea or a pitch, a guess at what follows. So you'll see the structure here goes from the past into the present, and then we begin to talk about what comes next.
So a bit like our name, we're seeing some crazy contrasts and contradictions and wild swings in trends and counter trends as we all try to hang on, I suppose, to a new kind of normal. The 6 that we've brought up today, I'll just briefly take you through in headline format. So firstly, we'll start by looking at this concept of generosity in times of scarcity. Then we'll look at the idea of round peg and square hole. Next, the make do movement and all that means. We'll then look at the interesting contrast between sustainability versus safety in this moment and beyond. From there, we go to looking at how in is the new out. And then lastly, as much as we social distancing, we're coming together like never before. So together apart will wrap it all up for us. Okay, so we start by looking back to times of war and what we can learn from wars and depressions. George will take you through this in this first section, generosity in times of scarcity.
Yeah, there's this beautiful story here of how the mills and the flour sack manufacturers, feed sack manufacturers and so on became aware of how people in the 1930s in the Great Depression, in those desperate times, started making clothes and home linens out of these bags that the feed and flour was shipped in to farms and so on. And so to anticipate that, they started printing beautiful fabric designs onto those sacks. And it's said that you could actually tell families by the similar clothes they wore that came from similar print fabrics. Another generosity in that moment was that the brands actually printed their logos in low fidelity inks and then published instructions on how you could easily wash up their brand names and so on. And that's quite a wonderful thing. And I'm saying generosity a lot, but that is a very, very kind thing. I guess you can imagine how a wife would instruct a burly farmer husband to go to the co-op and find this fabric so that I can make these linens or clothes. And it went to the point where some of these manufacturers actually printed on dress grade materials, and that became a unique selling position. So not just the content of what was in the bags mattered, but what the bag itself was made of mattered.
So I think what's important here is that it's about empathy and meeting your customers where they are. We've seen brands be extremely digitally generous during this time, giving access to certain areas of their apps and free downloads and free music and etc., etc. But there may be a great opportunity to think about how you could be generous through your packaging. So what second life could it serve? And in so doing, really creating that brand love and connection. And that idea that when you're with them in the tough times, they'll be with you in the good times. I, like many of you, I imagine, have had to become a homeschool teacher overnight, something I truly wasn't destined for. And having no printer at home, I sure would have appreciated a little number chart on the inside of a cereal box or something like that. It's probably a bad example, but thinking along those lines. Okay, then next we look at this idea of design at the speed of crisis. So we all know that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And we've seen some really inspirational examples in this time of production lines shifting overnight to meet the demands of pandemic. So think couture houses producing masks, etc., etc. So one such example that we worked on with our clients AB InBev was this hand sanitizer project. So obviously with the onset of pandemic, there was a shortage of hand sanitizer in the world, and ethanol is the key ingredient, which is alcohol. So AB InBev obviously had loads of that. And virtually overnight, production lines shifted, everyone got together in all aspects of the business, and this project rolled out to all the major markets around the world, virtually overnight. We assisted with the Africa rollout, and I think what was really inspirational here is what can actually be done when you have to and when you're under pressure. And I think if we could be taking that same agility and just ability to make things happen to future innovations and opportunities that present themselves, we'd really be winning.
Okay, so hyper agile. I think we've all heard this word used a lot over the last period, agility. But we're fortunate to have worked with our FMCG clients in this hyper agile space. But I think importantly, as a design studio, you learn how to deliver against agility by shaping yourself and honing your skills and oiling your wheels. But agile starts at client side, at brand side, and it's something that needs to be baked into your processes. It's got to be part of your culture. And so what we see working there are smaller integrated teams, and importantly, individuals and smaller teams with real decision-making power. That really punches through. And right now, we're also seeing a tendency for our role, design, to move all the way upstream to right where the technical product development teams sit. You're actually imagining the brands and testing things already in that environment where you imagining the product itself. So in a way, we learn rapidly, and this sounds like not good news, but if you're a massive brand, it's important to fail cheaply and to know that you're not onto a great thing earlier than later. And I think that behavior, obviously, and for us, thank you, results in big hits a lot of the time. So if you're struggling to achieve this kind of agility in your business, perhaps something to consider would be smaller self-organizing and cross-functional teams in your business.
So staying on hand sanitizer for a moment, truly the business we all wish we were in. What do clean hands and soy sauce have in common? Okay, so just to talk about the power of collaboration for a moment. So with Oishia. Kenzex are the manufacturers of soy sauce containers. They obviously saw a huge collapse in their demands, closed events, all of that. Kenzex demand. So they collaborated for the win. And I think what's important here is understanding that you don't have to own the solution. And it's really about not fearing collaboration. And now isn't a time to be competing, it's a time to collaborate and rather get your product and the opportunity into the market while it's still relevant. We can also take further design inspiration from the hyper-functional military design and everything in that. So there's certain trends that were already set in motion pandemic. So simplicity was the global megatrend that we were seeing across all categories. Millennials and Gen Zs are trading options for simplicity. It's really about authenticity, honesty, and as the pack on the right there says, no BS. And I think this hyper-functional sort of minimalist design aesthetic, you're definitely going to be seeing more and more of. Then next, we're going to wrap up this first section just on a slightly sunnier note, and this idea of chocolate in war. So the iconic M&M's chocolates were actually born and brought to life in wartime. They were designed to resist the high temperatures in the tropics. So firstly, the outer candy coating of the chocolates themselves prevented the chocolates from melting. And then the cardboard tubing that they were in added an extra level of insulation. So they became a very important delight and fundamental in ration packs. This, strangely enough, really brought the bigger picture home for me, and the idea that the meaningful innovation that we're creating out of necessity and crisis now, if done well, can really be the delights of future generations. Okay, so just the actionable insights from this section. Firstly, be generous. I know it's hard, times are tough, but it will come back to you in the good times. Don't fear collaboration. You don't have to own the solution. Look at developing this hyper agility and these small cross-functional teams within your business, and then remember the bigger picture, that the meaningful innovation we create now can be the delights of future generations.
I just want to take a moment to remind you to post questions all the way through. I'm going to sound like a stuck record, I'm sure, eventually, but just hit the Q button down there, and we're making a list of the questions. Well, there is a list of the questions.
Okay, so now we look at this idea of round peg and square holes. So it's really about forget thinking outside the box, build a new box if that's required. We can't really be bringing old solutions necessarily to new problems. So just when you think that everything has been done, there's this, the new letterbox wine. So Garçon Wines developed this new format to be able to be delivered through the standard postage system into your home. Conveniently, you don't need to be there while it's being developed. But I think there are just so many more, delivered at least, there's so many more aspects to this that are really just genius in this time. So firstly, it allows for that contactless delivery, and it goes through the standard postage service instead of couriers who must be under incredible strain during this time. And my guess is I think that you'll see a lot of categories follow and be squashed into this delightful new format. We built a new box for Nando's Pyrenees. George will take you through the story.
Quick short story there. Nando's Pyrenees is a much loved Nando's delight. It really scores very high in restaurant, but it wasn't really moving all that well off the shelves. And the reason could be because of the little pack on the left there. It was a completely generic pack form and not nearly as inspiring as the tastes and flavors that come out of it. So to help this move off the shelves, we had a look at the brand. We went back to the brand and found a solution in restaurant where they use beautiful square tall glass bottles for the piri-piri sauces. And with this being a squeeze format, a total top-down bottle, we literally took that bottle and squeezed it. And when you squeeze it, you get this interesting parallelogram shape at the top. And so this distinctive, very unique form was born. We then dressed it in a beautiful label and put it on shelf. There are some other important aspects here. You kind of see two sides to the pack at a glance. And so on shelf, it really presents beautifully. There's, of course, the tactile moment there where you feel the word mark that's raised. And another moment we captured here was the generosity, the softness of the mayonnaise is represented by the round cap at the bottom, and then the flavor builds up to the top to a much more sharp, edgy, peri-peri flavor. And so just memory structure-wise, there are some important moments built into this pack. It did very well. It's a superstar. We're not able to share any figures with you, but it's a champion. Yes, there's a form story. Just quickly. So we presented this prototype to one of the shareholders in London and had the acrylic shaped form flown out from China to us. It met us on the table there for the first time. We couldn't take our eyes off it, but we were terribly worried that this shareholder wouldn't even pick it up. We were talking and talking, and we became quite anxious until eventually he did pick it up. And I'm happy to say that for the rest of the presentation, he then never put it down. And that was the winning sign for us. It just feels so comfortable in your hand ergonomically. And when you're a squeeze format, you want to stay in people's hands, because when you're in hand, you're being squeezed.
Okay, so the next thing to be considering is meaningful line extensions. So this is really about staying close to your customers' buying behavior and having innovations ready to answer those needs. So we know that globally this green wave is rising, flexitarianism, plant-based diets and vegan are really on the rise. So earlier this year we launched the vegan Pyrenees, and fortuitously in time for lockdown, the big guy format. So again here it's understanding and understanding your customers' buying behaviors. So if they're shopping less, perhaps the bigger formats, and really just staying close to what's happening so that you have the SKU solutions in your portfolio to answer to these evolving needs.
Yeah, so we'd like to encourage the brands here today to perhaps go away and look at their products and to see which of those could ideate quick solutions to test what your audiences really want from your products and your brand. And I guess quick explorations and prototyping can really unlock ideas and line extensions for you quickly and in this time.
So this might be a bit of a dramatic statement, but is the shelf dead? And we don't totally believe that. I think interestingly in this time, shopping has actually it's moved from something I dread to my weekly outing. But importantly, we need to be considering actually 3 different shelves that exist in our lives. So a product that looked really great on the shelf on the left that we're all used to, perhaps doesn't look so great at 50 pixels on the new shelf on the right. And then added into that equation, we also need to be considering the home shelf and staying close to and understanding how our shoppers are packing and stacking at home. So in the traditional retail shelf, boxes face front and the beautiful side stares at you, but then when you bring them home, often it's the barcode and the T's and C's. So I think it's about getting the balance right, perhaps understanding where your product is the biggest and most important, and making sure that it's engaging and beautiful for all these different realities. Okay, so to wrap up, think about evolving to serve new realities and be solving new problems. A portfolio of SKU solutions to answer these evolving need states and customer behavior, and then be building brand distinction into your pack designs and your forms to build these strong memory structures and associations with you. Okay, so then next we look at the idea of the make-do movement. So this, interestingly, was also a term that originated in war times. but it's interesting to look at today. So it's really about using whatever can be found. It's a time to be using what's in the pantry. We've heard that term thrown around quite a lot, but I think really drawing on the deepest of your resources and making do, and within your organizations and out there in the world. This Patagonia campaign of don't buy this jacket, the mending service, I think those sort of things are really relevant. Being from Africa ourselves and Nando's, we know a lot about scarcity, and perhaps to turn that on its head and into a positive, really, if done well, scarcity can be the mother of invention. It's one of the aspects that we applied to the thinking of the Nando's visual identity system. So the stories behind each aspect of this, I think, deserves a webinar on its own, but a small and relevant snippet of it today.
Yeah. So let's talk about the visual language system for Nando's. Look at those 3 patterns top right of your screen. They were the 3 and only original patterns, artworks that we created. We actually silk screened those, so they're numbered and edition artworks. The entire Nando's visual identity system comes out of those, so that's getting a lot from a little. You'll see African moments in there, in the geometrics, and then also the sexier moments informed by the Portuguese side of the Nando's story. And sprinkled in there are Nando's delights, mnemonics, the chilies, hearts, and flames. And then the way the system works is we're able to zoom in and out of detail and then crop. And as you can see on the right, you end up with really amazing, well, distinct looking grids and themes and patterns and things. We use those in the more than 400 on shelf grocery SKUs for Nando's. You'll feel them in there, and when packs and things line up next to each other, there's this wonderful rhythm that I think's really distinct and unique to African pattern design that comes through. And we also used it in restaurant, various touch points. The crockery, the new crockery system benefits from the same process. You see the coq au vin there. That all work together. And so here we've used brand forms and memory structures graphically to pull all the way through.
Yeah, and it gives all the work a really interesting new African frequency and heartbeats.
Yeah, it's got wonderful width, but it distinctly belongs to Nando's.
So staying with Make Do for a moment, we're also seeing that suddenly we have time and we're making and doing again. I think this is a trend that's certainly been amplified in this time, and you'll probably see it course correct. I, for one, know that my electric mixer, for example, has never seen so much action in its life as it has over the last few weeks. But I think what is happening here is that we are becoming more aware of how we spend our time, and there's a conscious sort of stepping off of the crazy hamster wheel that we were living on before, and the realization that perhaps we were doing a lot of things that we didn't want to be doing. And I think this is going to have impact in product design going forward. We're definitely seeing a new definition for luxury emerging, and I think that time is going to be a very important part of that equation and that definition. We're also seeing a renewed respect for essentials and an essentialism, a real elevating of these things. And also value has never been more valued. So those are all important considerations going forward. Scarcity can be the mother of invention. It's about us using what can be found and using what's in the pantry, but also that renewed respect for essential. Maybe going forward, rather than all these packaged instant gratification solutions, we are going to shift back to a more basic, simpler way of doing things, and then also seeing this new definition for luxury emerging.
Right, just a reminder, please post your questions.
Okay, then next we look at this contrast of sustainability and safety. So I'm always fascinated by the word of the year. It summarizes the whole sentiment of that year. And I truly hope that 2020 isn't going to be social distancing. But so 2018 was single use, 2019 was climate strike. And I think all of us went into 2020 with sustainability really high on all of our agendas, only to be sort of slapped by what's happening now. And suddenly things are being double packed, double sealed, second sanitized, and it is quite concerning, the additional waste that's being produced. With our clients, AB InBev, we were looking at how we remove all our shrink wraps in the next couple of years, for example, and look at more sustainable solutions like the one on the right there that feeds the sea turtles. Plastic has been described as a pandemic, or an epidemic at least, with 8 million tons of it ending up in the ocean every year. So it is a complicated story. We're at a moment now where we're even packaging ourselves. With Nando's, we were also looking at how we remove all single-use items, so things like our neck seals, but for the moment they're all staying put. And there's no simple answer or simple solution here. You've got to be looking at the whole value chain. So the plastic around fruit and vegetables, for example, can be quadrupling the shelf life of food when we're shopping less often, and considering all the food waste in the equation, there are all of these things to be considered. We're also seeing the plastic versus paper debate raging on. So the jury's out on this one about which is more sterile and so on and so forth, and something we'll definitely be staying close to. But I think there's also the sentiment that perhaps our really thoughtless consumption is part of what's got us into the situation that we're in, and natural habitats are decreasing, and perhaps this is why viruses are jumping between humans and people. So we really do just need to be finding better ways. There's some interesting innovations in this time. So on the left there, in Mexico, yeah, you can, it's completely biodegradable, and if it does end up in the ocean, also feeds the sea turtles. And I think you don't also have to kill the plant when you harvest the pads. They're also very water-wise plants, and very sustainable in that sense. We're also seeing this new paper seal from Varden on the right there. It's been touted as the Tesla of paper, and can rival any plastic or metal coffee capsule, for example. So there's 65 billion e-commerce packages sent out every year. I'm sure that this time. So all of these, and just being better, these are currently very often a heavy-duty, single-use new compost bags waste. Just to wrap up there, we need to be finding better ways, be on a journey. So setting sustainability agendas as businesses. It's not about being perfect today, but at least being on a journey to be getting there. We will be seeing interesting innovations. We sampled a self-sanitizing paper the other day. But I think what really hit home here is that 40% of the cost of a product, often on average, when you look across categories, goes into the packaging. And that's just crazy. So thinking about how we can use less packaging perhaps as a cost saving, remembering that value is really being valued by our customers, so perhaps giving them a little bit more instead of the packaging. All of these sort of things we should be considering and actioning going forward. Okay, and then next we look at this concept of how in is the new out, and really this is about bringing it home, and this idea that outings become innings. So the truth is, unfortunately, that we're not going to be congregating like we used to in the immediate future. Massive concerts and football events and sports events are just not going to be happening. But there's a great opportunity for brands and your products to be reimagining all these things that we used to go out for as things that we now stay in for. So Häagen-Dazs partnered with Secret Cinema to bring Secret Sofa. So it has all the intrigue and the interactivity of the real world experience, only it's an armchair adventure. So I think what's powerful here is that you begin to signal new occasions and really place your brand at the center of all these new experiences. Pizza as a category is something that has done this really well, signal the in-home occasion for a long time now. But here we saw Domino's shifting FOMO into JOMO, so JOMO being the joy of missing out. During London Fashion Week, they launched this capsule collection of sleeping bag, gaming gear, and interesting three-man blankets, and so really all just celebrating that in-home experience. So this is another trend that we're seeing almost amplified in this time. We know that millennials and Gen Zs were homebodies anyway, so it's just proliferating and amplifying that hermit trend going forward. Can't go to the pub for a quick pint, that's not a problem. Heineken, the new Heineken Sub ticks that box for you. So it's 2 liters of beer that with the top that you see on the bottom left there, that can stack very nicely into your fridge. It stays fresher for longer. It has a 2-week lifespan. It's also delivered to your door and available in a number of really cool international beer flavors. With our partners, AB InBev, they've been onto this in-home occasion already pre-COVID, and we'll talk to you now about a couple of the things that we've been looking at.
Okay, so Castle Light is one of the 3 biggest beer brands in Africa, and we helped design this tiny 250ml pack for them. It was primarily designed for a entry-level new female beer drinker and the tricky Gen Zs, of course. And the brand is all about innovation. You see a lot of innovation in their space around them, but also their brand promise is built on the cold. And quite interestingly, the little snow castle, snow flake emblem you see at the bottom of the bottle there is printed in a photochromic ink. Thermochromic. Yes, sorry, wrong chromic. It's thermo. And so it switches on to signal the perfect serving temperature. So we created this smaller format and baked and built in the innovation and the extra cold. And if you look at that neck detail, it's got ice facets and crystals all around it. So even at a distance, it's signaling extra cold to you. From an innovation point of view, we might be stretching things a bit, but we were able to go to market with a positioning that said extra cold to the last drop. And of course, when you only have 250 mils of beer, you're going to be drinking that before that last drop even nearly gets warm. So it was true. For me, this is the perfect shower beer.
We also use our secondary packaging to signal occasion or to package for occasion. So often your secondary packaging is a lot less expensive and quicker and easier to flip than primary. So you can really use the same product and package it in a myriad of different ways. These are some examples. So we did the ultimate house party before house party was even a thing.
No, we're ahead of the curve.
And then this one for summer, the cold lock.
So here's an example of that innovation around the brand. This box is called Cold Lock, and we designed it to feel a bit like a tiny bar fridge or a refrigerator thing. It's got this space age, high-tech insulation, that silver stuff there, built into the inside of the box. You put the box in your fridge and it reaches the perfect serving temperature. You're then able to take the box out and move into your backyard where the session is happening. And your beer will stay cold for up to 3 hours long, so you can comfortably lean over and pull a beer out, slide one out, as opposed to jump up and run into your kitchen. So convenience and innovation for occasion.
Okay, we should also be considering unboxing and the joy of unboxing. So why does a courier box need to be a dull, boring thing that arrives in quite a joyless manner? And then the in-home sampling. So there are big opportunities here. We'll go through some AR, VR examples first. So here Gucci allows you to sample their super expensive and fabulous new kicks. And while you're doing it, you can do it for the gram. So take a photo on one of their beautiful carpets. And then we also saw Sephora launching a virtual makeup app or feature within their app, and where you could sample all the products in the different colors, which was interesting because, let's face it, none of us are ever going to sample a real lipstick in Boots ever again. And then lastly, again,
with face masks being the fashion now, I don't know who's going to be wearing lots of lipstick.
And then again, this idea of in-home sampling, it's really not about just sending somebody a free sample of your product or a mini version or something like that. We need to be upping the ante and really building engagement. So this is a slightly higher end example, but I think brings the point home really well. Google launched their new Pixel 4 phone last week and did what can be described as a cheesy collaboration with Domino's. So pizzas were delivered to select people across America, and it was a fresh hot pizza delivered by Domino's. And in the top there was a second little section where the new Google phone was placed. And so while you were eating your pizza, getting hands dirty, you could really sample the contactless new features of the phone in quite an engaging way. Okay, so to wrap up here, home is going to be where we congregate in the immediate future. So it's about reimagining all the things that we went out for as things that we can now stay in for, and be signaling and creating new occasions with your brand sort of inextricably linked at the center of this experience. Okay, I hope you don't have too severe visual overload by this stage.
Post the questions, post questions.
We're on to our last section. Okay, so lastly, we just look at how we make contact in this new contactless world. People are saying things like, is the handshake dead? And it's almost like we're having to find new ways to be human, but being human, and I'm talking as brands now, has never been more important. As much as we're social distancing, we're also coming together like never before. So how do brands create authentic connections and play more meaningful roles in your customers' lives going forward? How do we touch people? How do we move people from at least 2 meters away?
This was an interesting article. Richard Shotton is a behavioral scientist. He published a piece that spoke about life events and how there are these moments in our lives when you get married, when you get divorced, moving into a new home, moving out, getting a job, losing your job. These moments are likely points where you will try new brands and new products. And we see this happening across unrelated categories. So you get divorced, you try a new beer, many kinds of different new beers possibly, move into a new home, new cosmetics. So the issue is that this study is based on individuals and those life moments. This pandemic is a world life moment. And we think that many people will be switching to and from brands. And you've got to be thinking very much about what you can do to be the brand that people are switching to and not away from.
So initially, as we rise out of this, you'll see what's sometimes been termed release spending or revenge spending. So what will people do with their newfound freedom? And those that can will go out and buy stuff and consume experiences. And I'm sure that everyone's on this from a brand point of view, and how you take advantage of those experiences and those moments. But I think it is important to remember that it is a rare and limited time frame. And the far bigger reality is that we're going to be in a bit of a grisly and possibly prolonged global recession. So rather focus on the longer term emergence and these changing and evolving habits, and making sure that you're part of the consideration set. Luxury goods are definitely going to be taking a knock, and so there's an opportunity for more accessible brands to create these new joy spends and position themselves really powerfully for that. It's important to be staying really close to consumer sentiment, which is shifting rapidly at the moment. It really feels like the whole mood of the nation is affected by the Sunday night announcement, but we will start to see this stabilize over time, and ensuring that your brand lives up to these new expectations and shifting priorities is really important. Strong brands always recover faster. History has shown us that. I think it's the order of the day going forward is really going to be about authenticity, integrity, and empathy. It's about purpose, but it has to just be said also, it's about purpose with action. I think there's purpose fatigue at the moment. Lots of brands have just been saying things, and it's going to be about doing, not just saying. It's going to be about acts, not ads. We're also going to be emerging from a period of sensory deprivation, having lived 80% of our lives online in the recent weeks. So really thinking about how you create these enriching experiences in products, in the physical spaces, and in our digital experiences. So the experience economy is really going to be alive and well. We know that Gen Z and millennials already valued experiences over things. And I think it has to be about less but better going forward for a number of reasons. So you're probably going to see and it's about creating experiences that then can scale at digital. It's about, you have to be thinking omni-channel. And I think it's about making the ordinary extraordinary. Have been the heroes in all of this. It's the nurses, the frontline workers, the essential services providers. We're going to be seeing the rise of the amateur, so people going back to school, very often out of necessity. But so brands that can be elements of learning and focusing on and want to be doing are going to be relevant going forward. You will also see that creativity, we like to think that creativity will save us, but the Renaissance followed the Dark Ages. And also obviously new and innovative brands will be born. Born post-World War I, Uber followed the financial crisis. So for newness and people feel ready for new after times like this. And then I think lastly, just to wrap up, as hard as all of this is now, really what we've been given here is a 1 in 100 year opportunity to blow the doors down and to imagine it all for the better and be building a post-COVID world into a place that we'd all rather be. Okay, so remembering that life events change purchasing behavior, be creating authentic connections, making contact in our new contactors world, be thinking omni-channel, how we make ordinary extraordinary with beautiful enriching experiences. It's about purpose with action and authenticity, integrity, and empathy going forward. Okay,
Guys, well, that's not the end of our story. We just wanted to conclude in this way, a storm of insights, if you like. So we got those 6 sets of actionable insights, and they add up to 26 brand-saving concepts. And I think another trend we're seeing in this time is that bartering is very much alive and well, and we want to give you these hopefully valuable thoughts and ideas in exchange for the more or less hour that you gave us. And we hope you find these useful and that they generate thoughts for you and ideas, and that this last hour has been useful for you. Please don't go away. Don't go away. I can see there are 21 participants. We're going to go take a couple of, and we'll come and find you. We got a couple of questions, and just over the. No, I'm going to just leave it here. Over the next couple of minutes, we want to then just see if we can handle some of these. So here's one. How long did it take to create the Nando's prototype from start to finish? I think that's for the Pyrenees pack. Huh?
Yeah.
Just to explain, that wasn't an example of a hyper-agile process. We had time, and the business deliberately invested in a broad iteration process.
But it did move swiftly, and it
4
was
months.
no. So that was to design sign off, but then you have another 3 months to get it onto shelf. And so,
Yeah,
so the project was done within 9 months from start to finish. So on the grocery shelf.
Yeah.
But that was a complete form re-engineering and design. So quite an extensive exercise with lots of stakeholders and buy-in.
Yeah, I hope that that answers the question. Of course, the actual prototype from China took moments. Yeah. So there's another question here. What's the one about the 3 shelves, Brian? So out of the 3 different shelf types mentioned, retail, online, and home, which do you think will become the most important? I guess now and in the future. They might be different things now and in the future.
Yeah, I think it's a really great question. And we've obviously seen an exponential rise in online shopping during this time. I suppose it does also depend on the specific product. And I think there's certain things that you still will want to go out into the world and touch and feel and interact with. Whereas repeat purchase items, for example, I think online will definitely start to lead. And
but there's also, Esther, I think what we're seeing, and this might be a hint of what's to come, we're seeing packs that are born on shelf that are Instagram models, essentially. They very simply, in bold type, tell their beautiful brand story, and I guess you're encouraged to actually share it via that second shelf with the digital platform. And so, yeah, brands could perhaps have 2 faces, if you like, one made for the shelf and another that caters more for the digital shelf sharing.
Yeah, I almost cringe when I receive online shopping that is overpackaged. So if you're ordering things like cereal, for example, do you even need the outer box when you immediately decanting it? And so all of those things are important to consider.
There's someone called Anonymous. Anonymous. Do you have a view on how we balance reducing plastic with the fears people have around sanitation in order to create reassurance? I think
yeah.
Do you want to just talk about that?
In this moment, safety is everybody's first concern, and we have to be doing what we need to make sure that our products and SKUs answer to that. And but going forward, I do hope there'll be a balancing out of that, and we're not just producing tons and tons more of plastic and completely overdoing it. And as we said, I think you are going to see innovation. So we sampled a paper which, much like the scratch and sniff, for example, is embedded into the paper. So as you touch it, it is self-sanitizing. Again, it is a complicated story because it's additional chemicals and all of that. So I do hope there will be a course correct in the future, and we get back onto the righteous path that all of us were on.
Okay. Esther, just on your question there, are the slides available? Absolutely. We're packaging the whole presentation and it will be made available. Also, I think we'd like to
mail to you post this.
Yes, we'd like to offer that if there are other questions that arise for you guys beyond this, the time frame of our prayers, please feel free to mail Bronwyn or myself. It's bronwyn@sunshinegun.co.za or george@sunshinegun.co.za or tessa@sunshinegun.co.uk. We're spread around like so. Yeah, but it's definitely available.
Okay, we're on the hours.
Guys, I think, yes, I think our time is up and we don't want to go past our mark. Just thank you very much for spending the time with us, and we do hope that this was vaguely interesting. We had a lot of fun putting it together. You know, knowledge is king.
And all the best in this time.
Yes,
and beyond.
And we want to also do a shout out to our friends at Entourage who coached us here. Webinars are not for the faint-hearted. They're terrifying. They're very hard. You can't. There's no feedback. You know, empathy doesn't exist here. Thank you guys very much. We're gonna sign off now. Have a wonderful day and stay safe and happy. Cheerio.